Hi everybody, in this demo I'm going to show Camel K running on top of Knative. I've installed Knative in my Minishift using the Minishift add-on for Knative and Istio, and I'm going to show now some features. Let's start with channels. Channels are the abstraction in Knative eventing for publish-subscribe resources. You can define channels by name and define the implementation. In this case I'm using an in-memory channel provisioner. You can use a different one, for example, implementation based on Kafka topics. So I'm going to create two channels, one named messages and the other one named words that will contain single words. I will show also enterprise integration patterns implemented with Camel K. So let's start feeding these channels with some data. So I'm defining a feed.groovy file. This is the first Camel K integration that we are going to create. We use Groovy because it's simple and allows to write directly the Camel DSL. So the Camel DSL is well documented. There are a series of books describing it, and also it's well documented in the Camel website. And I'll show you some example of simple integration. Let's start with the simplest one, the hello world. So from timer, let's give a name to the timer, and then every 3 seconds you need to do this thing. I'm setting the body of the message that I'm going to send to a constant value of hello world from Camel K, and I'm going to send this message that I've just built to the Knative channel called messages. Before sending it, just make sure that you log, so you can see it in the console. Log info, for example, and here we go. We have the first integration. It's a feed, it's a source basically, and it will send messages to the Knative channel called messages. The Knative component is a new component in Camel K and allows to send messages to channels, receive messages from channels, but also contacting also functions, so services in Knative eventing. Just replace channel with endpoint and you will call a function, and you can use it also to chain function calls, so it's really powerful. So let's run this integration, this source. Camel run feed.groovy, but first of all let's see what this command generates. As you see here, it generates an integration resource belonging to the API camelapache.org. So this is a custom resource for Kubernetes and OpenShift, and basically it contains the code. The code that I've just written here. It will be what? It will be an operator that will materialize this integration. So first of all, let's install the operator, because without it nothing can run. So camel install will install the operator. Since we are installing the operator into a Knative enabled cluster, it will be configured with the Knative profile. So it will generate Knative resources such as serving services, auto-scaling services. If you're running Camel K on plain OpenShift but also on plain Kubernetes, it works on both. It will use just standard deployments, but now we're going to use the Camel K Knative profile. So camel run feed.groovy directly, and you will see here the feed that is already starting. The operator makes sure that all the images needed to run the integrations are already built, and build images for you if needed, depending on the components that you need to use. It will mix libraries, and then it's running. So let's see the logs. Stern feed stop. You'll see here that there is a user container printing hello world from Camel K, but also a Istio proxy. So this is inside the Istio service mesh. Every 3 seconds the log is printed and the message is sent to the channel messages. So if you look at what resources have been generated, you see that integration resource named feed has been generated, and also a Knative service has been generated for it. You see here, feed. So let's do some enterprise integration pattern with Kubernetes. So this resource that I have defined here cannot scale down to 0 because we are using a timer that needs to be always alive. But if you use a different kind of starting component, you will see it scaling down to 0. So let's define a split Groovy file. So I want to take all messages from Knative channel messages where I have put the hello world, and then split all the messages using tokenizing on the empty space, and then send all the resulting message to Knative channel words. This is it. This is one of the enterprise integration patterns that are available in Apache Camel, and there are many others. This is probably the simplest one, but this is how to run enterprise integration patterns using Camel K. So Camel run split.groovy, and it will run here. You see it. Now it should be ready now, and if you don't put messages into the channel, this will scale down to 0. So to see messages, let's define the last integration. So printer, for example, printer.groovy, so from Knative channel words, and printing all the words. So instead of 2, I'm using directly the log received this body of the message, and that's it. Camel run printer, and you see it here running. Here is almost ready. I'm using my laptop, so stern printer. Let's focus on the user container. And you see here that the single words hello world from Camel K, one for each line, are received and printed by this integration. So this is really cool, but we can make it cooler. For example, let's start playing a bit with it. So what happens if I delete the feed? So if I delete the feed, no more messages will flow inside the split and then the printer, right? So if I wait a bit, I will see them scaling down to 0. So let's pause the presentation and then let's see. Okay, now the integration are going to be scaled to 0, but in the meantime, let's define a different feed from the one that we have defined here, starting from a timer, and let's call it Telegram feed. So instead of starting from a timer here, just delete this part, and I'm going to use a different component in Camel. Oh, you see here that the pods are scaling down to 0 in the meantime because they are not used, they don't receive messages. So I'm using the Telegram component of Camel. Everything is well documented in the Camel website, and it requires authorization token that you can get from the Telegram bot further. So you can put it here, but you can also put it into a secret. You don't need to put it here in the integration. This is here just to make it simple for this presentation. So I'm going to convert the complex text, complex object that is sent from Telegram into a simple value for this demo. So convert the body to a string class. Camel does an intelligent conversion here, and then print the message into the current log and send it to messages again. So I'm going to create this new integration from Telegram, and you will see that it will work as before, right? So now the pod is started. What happens? Oh, you don't see any other pod starting here. Why? Because it's not using a timer here. It expected I send some messages. So as soon as I send some messages to my Telegram bot, so when I press start, the first message will be sent. The first pod will scale up, and then it will split the words and then send messages into the other channel, and then the second pod will start up. Okay, the time here are a bit slow, but it's because it's in my laptop, and this also will improve over time, but this is what will happen in reality also in the future. So now they are receiving messages, hey, and so they will be kept alive. But instead of watching the log of the printer, we can do something better with Camel K. So let's find a different printer here. For example, let's delete the printer and replace it with a printer based on Slack, right? So instead of printing data into the logs, I'm going to print them to the log, but also send them to Slack using the Slack component in Camel to a room, a channel called Camel K tests. Okay, I just need to provide here the configuration. You can put this configuration into a config map or a secret. So I'm going to configure the Slack component, the web hook URL property that is well documented into the Camel website, to this web hook that I've received from Slack. Oh, you see here that in the meantime the split endpoint, the split service is going to be scaled down to 0 because we have not sent any more message using Camel. So once we deploy this Camel run Slack printer.groovy, it will start up as usual. Okay, it's running, and then now it will be connected to this channel in Slack. So if I now let's see what happened first on OpenShift. If I now send some messages, hey there, you see here that the split service will be scaled up, and in some moments you will receive 2 messages here, hey there, in Slack. And you can write complex messages and add them in Slack. Here we go. We have completed the integration. So this integration is using a Telegram feed that acts as a source from and takes messages from Telegram, send them to a channel. Then there is this enterprise integration pattern, the simplest one developed with Camel K, that will split the word. You can replace it with anything complex as you prefer. It will send some other data into another channel. Then there is this other integration here that will take anything that you put in the words channel and push words into Slack. And this is it. So you need only to go into the GitHub repository of Camel K, so it's on Apache Camel K, and start using it and also contributing. Thank you very much.